first glance, it might seem like there's no interaction here, but there's something interesting that happens whenever you exile a card until you hit a certain kind of card. First, let's take a look at something like Commune with Lava, where if I put 5 into X, I take the top 5 cards of my library and put them into exile. So in that scenario, the War Doctor will see one instance of one or more card being put into exile and will trigger once. But with something like Wand of Wonder, we have to exile cards till we hit a certain type of card, and we don't know how many cards we're going to exile exactly, so we have to do those one at a time. So each time your opponent puts one of those cards into exile, the War Doctor will have individual triggers for each of those cards that were exiled. So if one opponent had to exile 5 cards till they hit an instant and sorcery, then War Doctor will trigger 5 times. Now if it comes to something like Creative Technique, where you reveal cards until you hit a card and then exile that card, then that is one instance of card being exiled. Because in the end, obviously you're just exiling one card. But if something exiles something until we hit a certain something, then we have to exile each of those cards individually because we don't know how many cards are going to be exiled. So it's not going to be one instance of a bunch of cards being exiled, it'll be a bunch of instances of one card being exiled. Which I know sounds a little confusing, but basically if something exiles something until you hit something, then for each of those cards that were exiled, the War Doctor will have that many triggers. But if the effect is asking you to take a certain amount of cards and then put them into exile, then that is one instance of one or more card being put into exile. Now there isn't a comprehensive ruling that explains all of this because that's just the nature of how exiling cards off the top works, but Lelia the Blade Reforged has a similar ability that cares about cards being exiled from the library, and when we check the Oracle text for her, we see very clearly how that interaction is supposed to work.